Determine whether, we're in chapter 5, test review. Determine whether the function is linear or quadratic. Identify the terms. So what you have to do is work the problem out. You have to FOIL. And then combine like terms. We have the 6x squareds go away. Actually, the 6x's go away. We're left with negative 6. Y equals negative 6. This is linear. It doesn't have a quadratic term because it's not quadratic. The linear term is 0x. And the constant is negative 6. If you graphed this, it would be at negative 6. It would be a line going that direction. The next question says identify the vertex. You just have to pick it out from the chart, from the graph, and it's at negative 1, negative 2. And you have to determine the location of P prime and Q prime, which are the mirror images of P and Q. P prime is at 0, negative 1, and Q prime is at negative 3, 2. Questions on that one. That's pretty basic. Number 3 says a manufacturer determines the number of drills it can sell given by this formula, where P is the price of the drills in dollars. This is your price. This is your D. Your graph looks something like this. They're going to ask you for the price where they're going to sell the maximum number of drills. What they're really asking for in this one is the vertex. And to find the vertex, you do negative b over 2a, f of negative b over 2a. So in this problem, b is 180, a is negative 3, and c is negative 285. So this is negative 180 over 2 times negative 3, which is negative 180 over negative 6, which is 30. That's the first part. That's the price. Then they say, how many drills can you sell? Well, you need to plug 30 into the formula. Negative 3 times 30 squared plus 180 times 30 minus 285. I get 2,415. Is that what you got? Okay, moving right along. Number 4. Factor the expression. How did you factor number 4?
X minus 2 and X minus 4.
Okay. Number 5. Now you please take turns. Please don't everybody talk at once.
X plus 7, X minus 9.
Okay, what about number 6?
X plus 7, 3, 4, 5.
Okay, good job. 7. The function models the height, y, and feet the stones thrown after it's dropped from the edge of a vertical cliff. How long will it take to hit the ground? This is not asking for the vertex. What's this asking for? This is asking for a 0. Here we go. The stone falls to the ground. They want to know when it hits the ground. So they're looking for a 0. To find a 0, use the quadratic formula. Or solve the equation. Number 7, I'm going to work it here. It says y equals negative 16t squared plus 486. And I want to know when 0 is y. So when 0 equals this. And since there's only one t and it's t squared, you can solve by taking the square root. So we get negative 486 is negative 16t squared. Divide by negative 16. What do you get when you do that? $30.375, and then take the square root. Remember when you take the square root that you get plus or minus. You get 2 versions of that number, but do we really need both of those? What's the one that's the answer for this? The positive one. So the answer here is 5.51 I believe it's seconds is what we're working on here. Yes, seconds. Number 8, landscape designer is developing a flower garden in the shape of a trapezoid. Wants the length of the shorter base. Okay, here's our trapezoid. Trapezoid has this for a height. This is the shorter base, and it's h plus 3. This is the longer base, and it's h plus 5. What's the formula for the area of a trapezoid?
Average of heights times bases times heights.
Right. So this is 1/2 of h plus 3 plus h plus 5 times h. So it's half of 2h plus 8 times h. Well, half, if you distribute that, you're going to get h plus 4 times h. So that's h squared plus 4h. Now, what did they say here? Area is 360. Okay. So then you want to move the 360 over. And you want to find the zeros. You want to solve. You can either factor or quadratic formula. Let's do quadratic formula. A is 1, B is 4, C is negative 360. Negative 4 plus or minus the square root of 4 squared minus 4 times A times C all over 2A. Negative 4 plus or minus the square root of, help me here, 16 plus 4 times 360. I get 1456 over 2. What's the square root of 1456? 38.15. So it's negative 4 plus 38.16 over 2, or negative 4 minus 38.16 over 2. This is going to give me a negative number. This side's going to give me a negative number. Is that going to be the one I need? It's not. I think it's 21.8 negative. But I can't use it because I'm looking for an actual measurement. Don't let me make a mathematical error here. I got 17.08. Is that what y'all got? I think I worked it yesterday and got the same thing. Okay. It has to be this one, which is the height of the trapezoid, because I have to have a positive number. Now, the next question is super easy. Find the additive inverse of negative 7 plus 5i. You just change your signs. It's 7 minus 5i. 10. 36i squared when you multiply. What's I squared? Negative 1, so this is negative 36. Any questions there? Okay, let's do 11. It says solve by completing the square, but I told y'all yesterday you could work this one by doing the quadratic formula. Did you solve it any other way? Quadratic formula. So A, B, and C. Negative 10 plus or minus the square root of 10 squared minus 4 times A times C, all over 2 times 1. Do the part under the radical and tell me what you get. 44 over 2. Okay, 44 is not a perfect square, so I'm going to have to do some work on 44. Can you break it down into something I can actually take the square root of? So it's really 2 square roots of 11. So it's negative 10 plus or minus 2 square roots of 11 over 2. Now, if all 3 of these locations have numbers that have a common factor, you can simplify. So this is negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 11. Now, I want y'all to know there are 2 answers here. This is negative 5 plus the square root of 11, negative 5 minus the square root of 11. You can write it this way, you know, both of those, or you can write it this way. 12. 12 says x squared plus 10x plus 35 is equal to 0. What are we going to do here? A, B, C. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a, which is 1. So what do we get here? Under the radical, what do you get?
What's square root of
Negative 40 over 2. Okay, so we're going to have to work on negative 40. Well, we got to do something with the negative. What do you do when you got a negative under the radical? You're going to have to use I. So it's negative 1, 4, and 10. So I have 2, and the square root of 10. So this is negative 10 plus or minus 2i square roots of 10 over 2. These numbers are the ones you pay attention to, and once again you can simplify them all by 2. Negative 5 plus or minus I square roots of 10. There's 2 answers there, just like we had in the top. You could split it into 2. Questions on number 12. 13. 13 says 4x squared minus x plus 3 is 0. A, B, and C. So what do we do here for the quadratic formula? Negative 1 plus or minus the square root of negative 1 squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. What do you get under the radical?
negative 47.
Well, you take negative 47. The only thing you can do is break it into negative 1 and 47, which is I square roots of 47. So this is 1 plus or minus I square roots of 47 over 8. I have seen this broken into 1 plus I square roots of 47 over 8, 1 minus I square roots of 47 over 8. And then sometimes, like this is one way to turn in your answer. This is a second way to represent the same thing. I have also seen them take this and split it and say 1/8 plus I square roots of 47 over 8, 1/8 minus I square roots of 47 over 8. Okay, so that's another way. I will accept any of these. I just want you to be able to identify them if they're on a multiple choice test. Okay, 14 says graph and identify the vertex and the axis of symmetry. Okay. If you're going to graph it, I'd go to my calculator. And put in x squared plus 3x plus 2 and graph. So we get a picture. So if you are matching, if it's a graphing question and it says match, this might be all you need to do to figure out the right answer. But if two of them are very similar, you're going to want to go to the table and you're going to want to plot some points. And I did this earlier today. I went in and I said, okay, -4, 6, -3, 2, -2, 0, -1, 0, 0, 2, and 1, 6, and connected with a smooth curve. Now, we also have to identify the vertex. It's not one of those dots. I need to figure what it is. It's going to be in between those two. What's the formula for the vertex? So this would be, if this is A, this is B, this is C. -3 over 2 times 1, which is going to be -1.5, right? And then when you plug that in, I get -0.25. And the axis of symmetry is always x equals the value of x in the vertex. Okay, 15. I worked it earlier, so let's walk through what happened. We have two squares. The larger square has dimensions x and x. The smaller square dimensions 3 and 3. We're going to cut the smaller square out of the larger square. The original area is x squared. The area of the smaller square is 9. So the area remaining after we remove the smaller square is x squared minus 9. And then if I factor, I get x plus 3 and x minus 3. Did y'all get that one? Any questions there? Okay, I don't think I have assigned these yet. I don't think I told you what to do with these. Did y'all know what to do with these? Okay. I want you to find the vertex, and then I want you to use the quadratic formula. Okay? Have y'all completed these? Yes? Okay. Well, let's walk through those. What'd you get here? -4. Those are going to cancel.
24.
24, that's negative, I squared, which is really 24. What about this one? You had to FOIL. Which is 5. I got 5. Is that what y'all got? Okay. And then use the quadratic formula. So on these, we'll check those in just a little bit to make sure you've got the quadratic.